I'm looking at Lab 1. Actually, this video is for Lab 2, but Lab 1, it's built off of Lab 1. Lab 2 is built off of Lab 1. So if we were to model these two tables, there's no primary key in either table, and they're not related to one another. So if I did this in Visio, it would look something like this. I'm using Visio 2007, but 2010 is not too much different. As you can see from the rules of normalization, both of these tables aren't normalized, but I did add a primary key for each one, class ID and student ID. Let's start with the student table. Of the attributes that are remaining for the student table, there's a few attributes that don't quite make sense to be in the student table. Phone number and email address sort of scream out. Phone number is not a determinant on student ID. If we added another phone number column, say home phone number and work phone number, we run into the first normal form problems. Easiest way to solve this, again, like every other normalization issue, is you split it off into another relation. So let's grab another relation. We're going to call this TBL phone ID, numeric 9 for 0, and phone number, and we're going to call that numeric 10 for 0. This is the primary key. And instead of phone number, we're going to add that phone ID. And then we're going to create the relationship for email address. And again, change this email address to email ID. It's good to have the same data types. Now, to draw the relationship, we have to figure out which side is the one. This is now a one-to-many relationship between student and email. What side's the one relationship? What side's the many? So this one is the one relationship. This one is the many. Now what should happen is, okay, it put up another column because I spelled the column wrong. You probably did the same thing. Let me remove this one. Remove. And if I go to relationship, you notice that the relation is not built correctly. Let me go to here and see how this has the error and has sort of like a question mark. It doesn't know how to associate the two. So I'm going to click both sides and say associate. Now what should happen is the primary key doesn't change. It's still email ID. And now this says foreign key 1. Is an email required for a student? No, because it's an attribute, and an attribute can be null. I wouldn't make it part of the primary key, but you could make it required. You could make email ID required on this side. So let's go and draw another relationship to phone. Same thing. This is the one side. What I'm doing is I'm dragging it and I'm dropping it right in the center. See how it turns red? Now I'm dropping it in the center. That one worked. I spelled it correctly. So phone ID goes to phone ID. This is now a strong. This is now a weak entity. So again, with class, sort of the same thing. Semester name and section name really is not a determinant on class. So those should be split into their own entities. So if I grabbed entity here and called this TBL semester ID, and semester name, work hard for 40, And now I had another one out here called section name. Section, sorry. Or actually just sort of name the same TBL section. So now I have section, semester in their own tables, and I still have class ID. Bear with